Welcome back to the What If audio experience. I'm Jeffrey Jensen here with my brother Jason, and today is episode number 6 of the What If podcast. And we don't have a guest this week, so we decided that we would just kind of hop on here and freestyle and still put out content this week. And so we're just going to kind of go back and forth and talk about business and life and all things included. And so I would say for me, and I'll let Jason chime in whenever he wants, but I think the one big thing...
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
There he is.
I just wanted to chime in. I felt the need to say welcome to episode 6.
I love it. The one thing that I feel like is kind of a pressing subject when it comes to entrepreneurship in today's society that I think a lot of people are really just missing is the patience factor. And I think we talk to a lot of people all the time, especially a lot of young people, and just that sense of, you know, someone who's like 18 to 21 feels like they have to have everything figured out already, and they have to have this like elaborate game plan of what they're going to do with their life. And it's like, you know, I'm 31, Jason's 29. I still don't feel like I have anything figured out, but yet I still feel like I'm super, super young when it comes to my journey as a human and as an entrepreneur. And so I think patience is just such a key when it comes to not only building a business, but just creating a life. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I mean, kicking this podcast off, if we're going to go the route of just patience and, you know, especially in the younger generation, but I think just anybody, any age group, whether you're 20, 30, 50, 60, I think there's so many people out there that aren't happy with where they are, compare themselves to so many other things or social media, and they want more out of life, or maybe they have found a vehicle, maybe they did start a business and they're frustrated at, you know, the growth they had or how far it's come, and patience is just so big. And I think, you know, one thing that I'm passionate about with talking with young people is I feel like one of the first big things that you have to decide when you're done with high school is, do I go to college, do I start a job? But I think it's even after that with people in the quote-unquote real world, it's the same thing. Maybe you're working a job, you're unhappy, you're unsatisfied, and you want more. And I think people just get stuck. You know, they get stuck right at that point of, I don't like what I'm doing, I want more out of life, but there's no action that gets taken. And I think that's just the biggest thing we've learned with even jumping into 212 was taking action is such a big thing. You know, yeah, go ahead.
And I think people, I mean, we live in this world of social media. And so, you know, everyone, and I know we've talked about it on several podcasts before, but everyone's so PR'd on social media and everyone's looking at, you know, all these people and they're comparing their day one to someone's day 1,000. And it's just such a illusion. You know, everyone on social media has got all their stuff together. But I think even talking with a lot of the guests that we've had on, it's like, man, no one really has it all figured out. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing you can do to be successful is really just dive in on the fact that slow and steady wins the race, not taking shortcuts and not doing things for short-term gain. You know, somebody once said, it's like, don't do something today that's going to, you know, put off what you want to do in the long term. You know, don't sacrifice little things today that are going to cheapen, you know, your long-term outcome. And I think that's a big thing that people they're looking for that quick way to make a quick dollar or to build a fast business, but it's not going to have longevity. And I think at the end of the day, if you're an entrepreneur, you want long, sustainable businesses.
Well, it's don't give up what you want most for what you want today.
That's the quote right there.
That's the quote.
I lost it right when it came to my mind.
And it's so true. I mean, we live in such a society where it's short-term game. It's instant satisfaction. I mean, that's just everything in life. It's easy to turn to the instant relief when it comes to things. So I think what would be cool today is, we've hit on it before, but so many people, I think, just need this game plan and understanding of, how do I progress from where I'm at? And so if you're a student, and again, this is what I get passionate about, and you're in high school, you have no idea what you want to do, and this will apply to wherever you're at in life, but step one is just taking time to figure out what it is you want to do. And I always say, make a list. What do you love? What do you not love? You know, do you want to go to college? If the answer is yes, ask yourself why. Do you want to just start working? If the answer is yes, ask yourself why. It's just crazy to me to think that we as people spend so much time on social media, on watching TV, on just so many different things, but yet we don't take the time to sit down and plan our life out. And I don't think it has to be this perfect plan. But when you think about your day-to-day or your week-to-week, sit down and add up how much time you're spending watching TV, washing your clothes, like washing your car, just all these minute and day-to-day tasks that everyone does. But then you think about when's the last time you sat down and made goals? Or when's the last time you sat down and what do you want the next 3 to 5 years to look like? It's just, it's not taught in school. It's something that I just wish people could get a better understanding of earlier in life, and just take the time to map out the life you want to live. And then it's creating a game plan. So I'd say step one, regardless of where you're at, is figuring out just where you want to be. And that is not just money. That's with your health, your relationships, your purpose, figuring out just what do you want your life to look like? Like, what is it that makes you happy? And it can't be, you know, hey, I just love to go out and party or hang at the beach. Like, there has to be some realistic standpoints behind it. Or if you really go deeper, it's like, okay, why do you like to do those things? Most of the time it's a release from the day-to-day life, but it's just figuring out what is it that makes you happy. And with that, you can start narrowing in on a game plan for where you want to go.
Yeah, and then to work backwards. And, you know, if someone does like to just party and go to the beach every day, it's like, cool, work backwards. How, you know, if that's the lifestyle you really want, how could you make that a reality? Work backwards and figure out what are the steps you need to take to achieve that. And I think that's with anything, is you get the big picture, you get everything down on paper. As cheesy as it sounds, like dream boards are super helpful. You know, paint a picture of what you want your life to look like from every aspect, and then you work backwards to figure out, okay, how can I do this? And man, with the internet nowadays, you know, people that they have a hobby that they really love, there's probably some way, if you work hard enough, to monetize that and to make a living. It may not be millions of dollars a year, but I think that's what people need to get out of their mindset, is like, oh, unless I make $1 million a year, I'm not successful, which I just think is crazy. But I think a big thing with doing all that and figuring out your life and making a game plan is personal development. And I think that's something that's helped us both tremendously.
For sure.
Go through our life and really build the businesses that we've built. And so I think, you know, finding a mentor, whether it's in person or virtual, whether it's through books or audio or, you know, shoot, YouTube's got crazy stuff on it now, but that's one thing that I know is it's kind of like bathing. You don't have to do it every day, but it's recommended. You know, personal development, you don't have to do it every day or every week, but man, the more positive stuff you put into your brain and the more encouragement, it's just going to outpour out of you. And the big thing is to make sure not only are you doing personal development, but then you're taking action on what you're learning through the personal development, because I think a lot of people miss the mark on that as well. You spend a lot of time getting fired up, and you just aim, and you never take action. And I know that was a problem I had for a long time. You know, I would go to the conventions and the conferences and the business conferences and read the books, and I had all this wealth of knowledge, but it wasn't taking the action. And when we finally decided to step out and take the action, it's such a release. It's such a good feeling to know that, you know, everything you've learned is now going into motion. But what are some, give me your top like 3 personal development, maybe books or audios or even just people that you really have learned a lot from?
Yeah, I mean, there's there's so many different people out there. I know, I think we both can't
Something
get
in
our
my
throats right today. There's so many different people out there, and I'll try to name some. But to go back on what Jeff was saying, personal development is just so, excuse me, so helpful in so many different ways, because not only is it going to give you tools and guidelines on creating success, but I think it's just going to start to unlock that. Like, there is no secret to figuring out this perfect life. I know I just said you've got to sit down and figure out what you like, what you don't like. For some people, that's difficult. And starting into personal development and reading and growing yourself, one, is a great first step in taking action rather than sitting there and watching TV and just not doing anything. But 2, as you start to learn and as you start to develop, it's going to open up where you want to be or what you want to do. Some of my personal favorites, I love Tony Robbins. He's been doing this for a long time, but I think all of his stuff is great. Lewis Howes is great. He's kind of like a new one. We both listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. There's so many different books out there that are great. I love the book Purpose Driven Life. That's a really good one as well. I mean, there's just so much content and material out there. Bob Proctor is phenomenal. Jim Rohn. There's so many people. I mean, now with YouTube and just audio, you can get all of the personal development you need. And I think that's a great start. So again, if you're listening to this and you're at a point in your life where you're not satisfied and you don't know exactly what it is you want to do, step one, get into personal development. Start doing something every single day to have that growth. Because what I've figured out is with success, I think the biggest measurement of success is growth. It's just growing in some area or aspect of your life. So if you don't have a game plan set as far as what you can do to take action to get to the next level, just make sure you're at least growing as a person. You know, so many times in life, opportunities will come and people just aren't ready for them. You know, there's a quote that says, luck is when opportunity,
preparation.
Opportunity meets preparation. And that's the thing. I've seen people, and there's been times in my life where an opportunity may come by and you just aren't ready for that. Or I'll talk to a lot of young people and they'll say, oh, like I want to get a promotion or I want to be this or do that. And the reality of it is that person wouldn't be able to do that role or take that promotion. And I think a lot of people sit around and wait and say, oh, if I could run my own business or if I could be the manager, if I could do this or that, my life would be so much better. I'd be so much happier. When instead it's, hey, look at that role or look at that job and think about what is someone who does that in an excellent way. What do they look like? You know, what are their characteristics? What are their habits? What are they doing every single day? And chances are you're probably not where that person would be. And so it's growing and creating yourself to become that person so that when that opportunity does come, you're ready for it. And I think that's just what's so big with personal development. But even farther than that is just start to explore. You know, as we're sitting here talking about creating success or finding what you want to do, again, for the person that just doesn't have any idea what that looks like, I can relate so much. I mean, even where I'm at now, I still don't know what my perfect dream, you know, day-to-day life looks like, but I'm getting closer. And if you're in a job or you're in school and you don't have time to go out and do extra things, start with the personal development, start with YouTube, just exploring, figuring out, and crossing off the list. That's what I always tell people is that list of what you love to do and what you don't love to do. The bigger the what you don't love to do side gets, well, there's just only less and less options for the side of what you do love to do. I've tried so many different jobs, and if you go and you work somewhere and you hate it, don't look at that as a waste of time or a failure. Go there, learn what you can, be the best you can be at that position. And if it's not for you, just know, hey, this isn't for me. And the reality is now you're one step closer to getting to where you want to be. So personal development is definitely key in starting this whole journey of being successful.
Yeah, and I think to hammer in on a point that you made, I'm a big Jim Rohn fan, and Jim Rohn has a quote that says, success is not something you get, but it's something that you attract by the person you become. And I think that a lot of business and leadership positions can be equated to sports. I think if you look at a high-level athlete versus a CEO or a business owner or someone who's just in a leadership role, it takes so much work together. And like you said, when opportunity meets preparation is when the success happens. But a lot of times people don't want to put in that work, and you would never look at someone, you know, if you came to me and said, hey, you know, I'm 6'7", and, you know, I'm a big guy and I can shoot a basketball, I'm going to go to the NBA. But yet you had never dribbled a basketball in your life. Like, I don't care if you're 7'5", like you're not going to go to the NBA. But yet someone who's, you know, 6'3", you know, or, you know, even someone like Muggsy Bogues, who's like, what, 5'9", something like that, sure. 5, I don't even know what he is. But, you know, he spent, you know, thousands and thousands of hours of preparation to get to that next level. And I think sports and business have a lot in common as far as, you know, it takes a ton of work behind closed doors that no one ever sees to get you ready for that next level. And without that, you wouldn't be able to handle the pressure
for sure
that comes with being, you know, a business owner or in a high level of leadership. And let's be honest, you know, if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably because you want more out of life. and you want to have somewhat of a level of success. And no one in life is successful without putting in a lot of hard work. I mean,
100%. Yeah, you've got to put in the time, you got to put in the hours. And again, that's just, I wish it was taught so much more that going out and trying and doing is perfectly okay. And maybe you don't want to be a business owner, but you're just not happy with where you are in life. It's the same concept, everything. It's all the same principle, whether it's you want to find the right guy or girl in your life, the right job, your passion, whatever it may be. You just got to go out and do. You just got to do more. We've gotten to a point in society where it's so easy to just stay inside because you have social media, Netflix, all of these things that take your attention away. And not only is it wasting your time, but it's difficult. It's difficult to look at other people's highlight reels and feel like you're not doing anything with your life. And then you get depressed, you get down on yourself, and you don't take any action. So if you're sitting there and you're not satisfied with where you want to be, get off the social media, stop comparing yourself to other people, and take that next step. And again, if you're not in a position to physically go out and do something, start with personal development, start with taking care of your mind. I mean, so many people know what being healthy is. You go to the gym, you work out, you eat right, you get healthy. Well, you have to put the same type of attention towards your mindset and where your focus is, and put it on stuff that's going to make you a better person. So many people go to school, until their senior year, they graduate and that's it. Or they go to college and at 21 years old, they stop learning. I don't think school should really ever end. You should never stop learning. I feel like the people that say they know the most probably don't, and the people that do know the most will tell you they don't know much at all. I mean, there's just so much out there that you can go and get for free, so much knowledge you can get for free that can get you so far ahead. I mean, even this podcast, the videos that Jeff does, the photos, like all of that was self-taught. I mean, this business, everything was just learned along the way. I think school is a great place, but it's my encouragement to you listening to just keep learning, keep growing, keep developing as a person. And when those bigger opportunities do come, you're going to be able to have so much more success than if you were stagnant or you weren't doing anything. So if you're at a point where you don't know what you want to do, personal development is huge. Get out there and make a list of what you love, what you don't love. And then when you do have the opportunity, start taking action. If you're in a job that you hate, quit that job, or make the preparations to be able to walk away from something that you're not passionate about. That's another big aspect of this is so many people get stuck in their day-to-day work life and they're miserable, but they're not creating an action plan to get their finances right. So if you're currently in a work situation where you're not happy, make a budget. Sit down and figure out what your monthly overhead is. Save up and have 3 to 4 months of overhead to where you could walk away from that position and have time to figure out your next step and move forward on that. I mean, it's all these making plans and decisions and taking action. Some are big steps and some are smaller, but it just starts with day one. If you're not happy with what you're doing, if you're not happy with where you want to be, figure out what you need to get through the next 3 to 6 months. Once you have that, walk away from what you're doing and get to work. Just go to the next job, go to the next, position that you could obtain and see if it's for you. I mean, I wish we could express more of just the whole failure thing. I feel like I just talked to so many young people, and I feel like it's kind of coming out with this podcast. I just had a conversation with a guy yesterday about the same thing. It's just there's something stopping people from moving forward or from moving on from something, and life goes by so quick. I feel like at 18, you feel like you're getting old so fast, then you hit 30 and you're like, man, 18 was so young. And even at our age now, it feels like we're just getting started. The time is there, but the sooner you take action, the sooner you're going to get the results you want to see.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what you just said, and I'll let you fill in on this, but I think a lot of people not being able to start, a lot of that has to do with the people they're surrounded with.
For sure.
They say you're the sum of your 5 closest friends. So that'll work in any area of your life. That'll work in your finances and your health and relationships. But I think the tendency that we see a lot is when people, they want to do a business or they want to take a leap of faith and do something kind of, out of the ordinary, but their friend group is just not in the same headspace. And so I think that's where personal development can help, because it can kind of puts you, obviously you're not hanging out with these people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Lewis Howes and Tony Robbins, but in a way you are, because they're speaking life into you. And that's really what it is it's filling your brain and getting your mindset to be around the 5 people that you look up to. And so, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Is that a big hang up that you see people having, is their friend circle or just the people that have influence on their life?
For sure. I mean, it's everything. Whether it's your parents, your friends, it's having the right attitude. And if you have negativity in your life, you've got to remove it. If it's your parents that don't believe in whatever crazy dream you have, you've got to remove that. I'm not saying don't be involved with your parents at all, but it's your life. If you are truly willing to go for it, you've got to get that negativity out of the way, because it's just funny how it works too. Everyone that is negative or says it won't happen or you can't do it, and then the rare time that somebody does go out and achieve that goal, well, all of a sudden those people become your biggest supporters. I mean, we saw that so much with what we first did with direct sales. I mean, so many people made fun of it and said it wouldn't work, and we went out there and just put our heads down and worked super hard, and then those people became our biggest fan club. And so if there is negativity in life, you've got to cut that out. And then like Jeff said, I think it's great to fill that with the personal development. I mean, if you don't have a mentor or people that you can go to that are going to support you, find it through the internet, through podcasts, through books. But I think the big takeaway from this is just your attitude. And so in talking about trying to create a better life, looking for a different job, all of these things, it also starts with your attitude. And let's say you are in a position that you don't like. I talk to people quite a bit that they may be working at a job they hate. They feel like they have all these leadership skills and all these great attributes, and they just wish they could pour those into something they loved. But I think the better outlet or the better way to look at it is start with where you are. If you're in a job that you hate, going there and having a poor attitude is most certainly not going to help it. And if you're not willing to take action to get out of that job, well, the least you could do is at least have a great attitude while you're in that job. Or even if you do create a game plan to move forward, be the best you can be. I mean, there's so many things with business and even this business that I don't enjoy doing. Nothing's easy. There is no super easy 24/7 fun job or position out there. Everything has its downfalls. But if you have the right attitude in it, it's not only going to make it so much better for you, but that's how you become a leader. That's how you learn. People want to follow people who have a great attitude, who have vision. And so, again, if you are in a situation where your passion isn't necessarily fulfilled, show up and be the best you can be. When you bring that to the work environment, it's not just only going to change yourself, but the people around you. And who knows, you switch that attitude, all of a sudden, maybe you actually are in a position where you want to be, or maybe you're just desirous to move up the ladder, if you will, and having that better attitude day to day is going to help that so much. I mean, so much of life is your attitude, and we talk about joy and happiness on here. I think that, we say happiness is something that's already inside of you. Happiness is not some tangible thing. People think, oh, once I make more money and once I have the nicer car, or once I have this or that, I'll finally be happy. The reality of it is, if that's your mindset, I can tell you once you get those things, it'll be short-term happiness, then you'll be right back to where you started. And so it's just a choice of how do you want to wake up and start your day every morning. You have that positive attitude. You bring that happiness to the workplace. It's going to make a huge difference.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. And I think life, too, is a lot about how you react to things. It's when you have situations that arise, how are you going to handle them? How are you going to dive in, and that's when a lot of true leadership character is developed. So I think those are all great points. But let's move in. We're gonna keep this podcast a lot shorter than our other ones, but in the last 10 minutes here, maybe we could do some more practical stuff for people who are looking to build a business or start a business. So I know a lot of questions that people have are on the practical side of starting a business. And so, we've talked about mindset and personal development. I think you need all of that stuff to become an entrepreneur, to become a leader. You've got to rise to that level to be able to handle the things that are going to happen once you start a business. But let's say that you've done that. You've spent the last year, becoming that person, and now it's time to get started. So what would you say from a practical standpoint? You know, like you write out a business plan, you know, maybe to even take us down the steps of like, hey, do you form an LLC, like business license? Like, what are like the first like 5 practical steps that you would say to someone who's like never owned a business and they feel like they're ready to go, but they just have no idea where to get started? They have the idea for the business and they kind of have the business plan, but like tactical, just logistical next steps.
I mean, so it's so, each business is so different, but I say we just pick one. Let's pick landscaping, for example. If you want to start a landscaping business, here would be the outline. It's like you said, step 1, get in the right mindset, developing yourself as a person. You've done all that. You have a business plan. Great. The biggest things you've got to realize is, how are you going to market? Who's your target demographic? Are you in the right location for that? Finances. You know, what are you going to need to start this company? What are you going to need from a insurance standpoint, licensing standpoint, equipment standpoint, vehicle standpoint? And I think, what are your motives and what are your goals? Is this a full-time business you're going to quit your job and get right into? You're going to work on it part-time? But let's just say it's a landscaping company. You've done your research. You figured it out. It's a big thing up front that so many people miss. Again, it's the financial side. And I think it's ensuring that you truly go out and do your research on how much money is it going to take to run this business, and then double that number. You know, I've said double, triple, quadruple. It's all different, but make sure that you have enough cash flow to where you're not going to fall short and be out of the game before you even start necessarily. But if you were starting the business, it'd obviously be get the equipment you need, setting up an LLC, which you can do that online. There's a lot of stuff online you can do. If you have a good attorney you trust, it's a couple $100s to do that. You can go to your, I think for us, it's you go to like horrycounty.org, or you can go to whatever state government you have online, see what LLCs are available. So come up with a name. LLC is a great way to start a business. There's tax breaks with that. It's an easier way to operate as you get bigger. Sometimes it makes sense to go to an S corp. Finding an accountant that you can trust,
and the hammer. So, and a lot of things that some people may not know, especially if they're very, very new. You know, an LLC is going to protect you as a person as well.
For sure.
So you don't, you know, you could go the route. I know the first landscaping company I ever had, which is funny that you picked landscaping company, but the first one that I ever had, I was a sole proprietor, so I had an LLC, and you can operate your business that way, and it's fine, but an LLC is going to protect your personal assets. So say you're in your mid-40s and you're getting started on something, and you've built a nice nest egg for your family, and you have a house and you have a lot of assets. You're going to want to protect yourself for, God forbid, something happens with your landscaping company and someone gets injured or you have a lawsuit. Like, you want to protect your personal assets as well.
For sure. And I think too, with all this, what I see so many people do is they're kind of halfway in when it comes to a business. Like, again, take landscaping. If it's what you want to do, you're excited about it, don't just halfway do it. So many people will just start and, I'm just going to mow some lawns, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and they don't set up an LLC. They don't have insurance. They don't have an accountant. They don't have all the things that they need. My encouragement is figure all that stuff out on the front end, because whether it's a subconscious thing or just how the dominoes fall, every single time that someone just kind of starts something and they don't go through the proper procedures, it just never seems to work out. And the good thing about all this is you can figure out what this is going to cost you without spending money. Call a law firm and say, hey, what does it cost to set up an LLC? Or, hey, here's my situation. Should I be a sole proprietor? Should I be an LLC? Do your research online. Figure out what it costs to get your license. Go meet with a local insurance company and tell them, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to start a landscaping business. We're going to have one vehicle. Here's my equipment. Here's what it'll be worth. What will this cost me month to month? Do I need work comp? Do I need to have an umbrella? I mean, you can research and figure all of this stuff out on the front end. And then when you do move into it, just do it the right way. I mean, no one ever wants to protect themselves or pay the money for insurance, but if something bad happens, that's why most businesses fail within the first year to 2 years, because they're just not set up correctly. So again, to start off, make sure you've got your insurance aspect covered. If you are in a position in life where, let's say, you do have a lot and there is a lot to lose, a house, vehicles, money, whatever it may be, separating yourself from your business is so important through having an LLC or an S corp. Getting the right insurance in place. You can get an umbrella insurance policy, which is an extra layer of protection. You want to make sure you have liability insurance to cover your equipment, your property. If you are hiring people, make sure you have work comp insurance. I know in South Carolina, work comp is such a big issue because so many people don't have the proper work comp. And then in this state, they're pretty lenient on it. If somebody gets hurt at work, there's really no questions about it. They can file against you for work comp. And so again, making sure you have all of these aspects set up and an accountant as well, so that as you do grow, you're doing it the right way. An accountant is such an important thing. I mean, knowing what you can write off, what you can't write off, running certain things through the business so that you do have those write-offs at the end of the year, and setting yourself up for growth. You know, that laying the foundation, I think, is very difficult. Most people skip it. They start doing the work, and then 6 months in, they're like, man, I've made some money. I don't have any of this figured out. And a lot of people just quit. So doing that front-end work and then creating that marketing strategy, making sure you're going out there and getting the word out of whatever it may be. And there's just so many ideas. I mean, every business is different, but yeah, if you're looking to start a business, make sure you're checking the boxes on these very important things before you get going. And it's not the funnest thing in the world. A lot of stuff I deal with our business isn't very fun, but it's necessary. You know, paying taxes is a good thing because we live in America, and I'll take it to have the government we have, the freedom to do what we want to do. But you got to make sure you're set up so that way you're not making these big mistakes. Most people that get into tax trouble or they get into licensing trouble, it wasn't a bad intention. They just didn't know any better. So again, to list it off, accounting, find a good accountant or do research online to figure out what you can do. Getting your licensing set up. In most areas, you just go to the city you're in, get a license there. If you're in retail, you need a retail license. Figuring out an attorney, setting yourself up with an LLC or an S Corp, whatever would make the most sense. Getting your marketing plan together, your financial plan together, and your insurance are all really the main building blocks to getting started. And all this stuff you can figure out online. You can research and find that out. And then once you have that in place, it's getting to work and going out and making it happen.
Yeah, and to take this all back full circle to kind of where we started the podcast, it just hearing you talk about certain things really just makes me think about what I opened with, which was patience. And it's so interesting to see how your life and my life have developed over the last really 10 years in what we've had to go through to get where we are today. And I think it was interesting to just hear you talk about insurance and how much you know about insurance. And for a lot of people listening, they might not know this, but you did commercial insurance. You sold commercial insurance. And so when you're going throughout your life, you may not know why you're doing something. You may not know the reason that you're in that season, but God has a funny way of working things out a lot of times. And a lot of times the reason that you're doing something is to prepare you for what's to come. And so I think it's just really interesting when you talk about patience and entrepreneurship, and then to hear you lay out, more of a tactical foundation of, hey, this is how you start X, Y, and Z, and to hear those things. I know for us, it was tremendously helpful that you sold insurance when we started 212, because our first company that we met with to get our insurance, they tried to put a bag over our head and act like we were just these two young kids walking in off the street that didn't know anything. And thankfully, you were very versed in insurance, and you saved us thousands of dollars and got us better insurance because you knew what to do. And so if you're in a season of life right now, maybe you're doing something that you don't love, because I know you didn't love doing commercial insurance, but maybe you're doing that. My encouragement would be have patience and realize that, every season of life is different, and that you can always take something and learn from what you're doing, whether it's the job that you love or the job that you hate. You can always pull out a nugget that's going to help you once you become an entrepreneur. I mean, even down to serving tables,
for sure.
Just how you communicate with people and how you respect people, and that'll transfer into how you treat your customers. So I think that was cool to kind of hear that, and as we wrap up, to kind of just know that, like, hey, it's a full circle journey. Patience is such a big part of this journey, and going through everything that you've gone through in life can really help you when you get to, your purpose and what you want to do for the rest of your life. And for us, we're always changing. So for the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it'll be.
And I think there's just so many, things happen that you don't really know why. And then a week later, you figure out why. And sometimes it takes 7, 8, 9 years later. I mean, even just sitting here doing this podcast, for people that have listened to the first 5, I feel like this podcast has a different tone than our first 5. And even in just for us in this season of life, like this past month has just been a hard month. Like 212, personally, we just had a lot of stuff going on. I feel like this past month has just been getting beat up left and right, one thing after another, with things in personal life, things with the business. It's just been tough. And I feel like the tone of this is almost coming out of, man, it's hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You're not going to have all the answers, but it's so worth it. Even doing this podcast, we almost didn't do it, and it's almost, I know for me personally right now, it's just this feeling of like, hey, it's a difficult season right now, but again, we're showing up and we're doing it. We're being transparent. We're being honest here, and this is the difference maker. We could have done the podcast. We could have not done the podcast. There's so much going on, and we decided to do it. And I think, again, this tone is just more from a passionate standpoint of life's going to be hard. Life's going to be difficult. The difference in the life people live who have success and who don't is drastic. But the actual steps that need to be taken are really not that big. It's just the people that show up every single day, those are the ones that get there. And, I look back on my life, and for people that may see this, I just turned 29, and to have built 212, we're 2 years old and did over $1 million in our first year of business is such an incredible achievement. But I do go back to, went to high school, had good grades, went to business school for college, excelled in sports. What was my takeaway there was just being able to complete a task. I always did really well in school, and I think my big thing was, hey, if I got a task, I could complete it. Then after that, serve tables, worked at Pirates Voyage. I learned a ton there about people. You serve 150 people a day. You learn how to deal with people's crap, which is a lot of what being a business owner is. It's just what a lot of life is. From that gun to direct sales, taught me personal development, how to change my mindset, how to be positive, got to travel, meet new people, just open up my world that there's more than I thought there was, that there are people out there having success. Learned so much about sales, learned how to interact with people. I'd meet with 18-year-old kids to 60-year-old successful business people, and seeing the differences and the similarities between the two, learning how to approach those situations made a huge impact. Did timeshare, I've done real estate. Biggest takeaways from that, learned about contracts, learned about reading the fine print, going over everything, doing the due diligence on a big transaction such as real estate, taking the time with somebody when it's a huge outcome. It's most people's biggest purchase they've ever made. And so learned so much in the real estate side of things. Sold commodities, which was just a crazy business. Got to spend time in BMW and Boeing and all these massive companies.
It makes you sound really cool. Like,
it sounds,
I sold commodities.
It was a crazy business. It's honestly one of the things, like, it was great. It just wasn't where my passion was. But in those, I think 4 to 5 months I did it, I was meeting with big time, like I'd spend the first half of my day in BMW plant and the next half in a junkyard. Like, it was just such a crazy, drastic shift. But again, learned how to handle those situations. You don't walk into BMW in, jeans and a raggy shirt, but you don't wear a suit to the junkyard. Just figuring out people, developing those relationships, and from there, help somebody start a business. And 1 month in, they closed it down, worked for a company that we pretty much were hiring people for technology. It's like a staffing company. Did that for 3 months, saw the corporate side of thing. Again, cold calling people, connecting them to jobs, just all of these things along the way. Got into commercial insurance, all that practice from having real estate experience with contracts and dealing with people, help with that. Learned a ton about the insurance world. All of this stuff led up to, never in my life did I think I'd own a meal prep company. But when we started it, I look back and I'm like, man, I deal with all of our insurance. Without the knowledge I had, we would be spending way more money, and there just wouldn't be the comfortability of knowing we're okay. Tons of contracts with all the people that we do business with, dealing with all sorts of people from all walks of life, dealing with gym owners, so people that other business owners, which until you are a business owner, I feel like people look at you a little differently when you're trying to sell them on something, which commercial insurance, I was walking in cold to businesses every day, and just all these little things where there were so many times I got so down and I was like, man, I'm just not where I want to be. Now I look back and I wouldn't give up any of those experiences, because now at 29, the growth that we've had in this company over the last 2 years, I think it's incredible. I mean, and same with you, to go through your entire backstory of what you learned from the past businesses you had, all the same stuff I talked about with direct sales and cooking and just all of these things that up until we started this, I feel like they didn't really connect a lot of dots.
For sure.
But now that we're here, it makes so much sense in it. And even with this, man, what is the next 10 years going to look like? In 10 years from now, we could look back on this podcast or this business and say, man, we would have never been able to get to where we are today without going through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even look back at my life. It's just crazy to think about the patience track and just everything from, you know, I didn't have as many jobs. I was always more trying to work for myself, be an entrepreneur, but owning 2 landscaping companies and then going through the process of selling a company to another company and then going on to run that company, which was a huge learning experience for me. I really learned that even though I like the industry and love the people that I was working with, like I can't work for someone else. It's just not in my DNA. But even going as far back, I won't go into all the stuff that I've done, but going as far back as to like in high school, I was a terrible student, but I had the option to go to, at the time, it was a very new concept, but it was like a school where you could go and take a major, kind of like you do in college. And it was a very small school. And my junior and senior year of high school, I majored in entertainment technology, which was video production and video editing. Now, what's funny is I loved it then. I was like big into like skateboarding and surfing and stuff when I was younger. And so we made like skate videos, and I feel like everybody that picks up a camera has made a skate video at one time or another. But, you know, I'm 31. I graduated high school in 2006. I hadn't touched a camera since I graduated high school. You know, it just kind of fell away from me. I didn't choose to go down that career path. But now fast forward, 10 plus years, and it's like I run all of our media for 212, from video production to photography, to doing this podcast, to all of our editing. And so it's just crazy to think that, like, okay, when I was in high school, I randomly chose to go do this video production 2-year deal, which is funny because all of the technology that we learned in high school is irrelevant. It's gone. But it gave me enough of a foundation that I could go on YouTube and teach myself how to do it pretty quickly. And so, once again, wherever you're at in life, it's like just embrace that season, go through it, knowing that there is something that you can take away from it. And once you get to where you want to go, you'll have the skill set. And it's great to be able to pull from all these different areas of life that we've both walked through. And I think that's what makes us so successful. And I think that's why no matter what business we do, whether it's 212 or whether it's, the What If brand and this podcast and the future that we have for this brand, whatever it is, I know that we'll be successful because we've gone through it. We've had the tests, and we have the skill set to get things done. And so I would just encourage everybody, just be patient, man. Life is long, and barring a crazy tragedy, like whether you're 21 or 41, I guarantee you poll every 41-year-old out there, they'll probably tell you, yeah, I still feel like I did when I was 21. Your body might not feel the same way, but I know that most people's mindset, you still feel young. And so there's just a lot of time to build great things.
For sure. Just got to stay with it. Don't quit. Have the right attitude. Be consistent. And don't get too down on yourself. Don't look too much at what other people are doing. Stay dialed in. I mean, again, this is an interesting podcast. I like the tone of this. I feel like it's just real. It's the message we want to get across is you deserve it. It's worth it. Don't ever quit on your dreams. Don't stop growing as a person. And what you come to realize is that the more you grow, the more you learn, the more you develop, you never arrive. even where we are at today, if you were to told me that 8 or 9 years ago, hey, you could be in this position, I'd be like, oh, that's amazing, I'll take it. But now that we're here, you want more. And it's not just like, oh, I want to make more money. You want to keep growing. You want to keep developing. You want to keep making a bigger impact. But the secret to all of this is just don't quit. Don't give up. And when you don't want to get up and show up to work, those are the days you really need to. And so stay consistent, believe in yourself, get into personal development, make a game plan, take action, and know that it's possible.
Yep. Patience, baby. Patience.
That's it.
Well, somehow we said we were going to do a short podcast because we didn't have a guest, and we are still at 46 plus minutes. So you guys can tell that we like to talk, you know. So
absolutely. Anyways,
this was episode number 6 of the What If audio experience, and we are so grateful that you took the time out of your day to listen. And hey, if you would, we would love it for you to leave us a review or drop a comment on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts at. It would mean the world to us. Next week, we've got some phenomenal guests lined up, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. So thanks again for listening, and
bye for now.